This is Winter-Wise, a severe weather special from the WENY News First Warning Weather Team. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell. More cars at lower prices.
Well, thanks for joining us for WENY's Winter Weather Special, Winter-Wise, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell. I'm Chief Meteorologist Joe Veras, along with meteorologist Catherine Schwam and Connor Friedoff. In the next half hour, we have all sorts of winter weather-related stories to share with you. Let's start with snow. More specifically, let's learn about different types of snowflakes.
Each winter, over 1 trillion snowflakes fall from the sky, but the probability that 2 snow crystals look the same is slim to none. To go through each and every snowflake would be a daunting task. That is why there's an explanation to the process of each snowflake and why they differ from each other. A snowflake begins to form when extremely cold water droplets freeze onto something in the sky, such as pollen or a dust particle. This creates an ice crystal. As the ice crystal falls to the ground, water vapor freezes onto the primary crystal, building new crystals, which are known as the 6 arms of the snowflake. Most people wonder why snowflakes are not exactly the same. It's because the individual snowflakes follow slightly different paths from the sky to the ground.
So I would actually tell anybody to pick up something that is flat, like a paper plate or a sheet of paper, and just hold it up and let go of it. And when you watch it fall, you would see that it kind of swivels all over the place. And as it swivels all over the place, that's where the growth at these points are occurring. And since you drop it, drop another piece of paper, it won't follow the same path. So no 2 snowflakes will end up looking the same because the path that they're taking is different as they go through the cloud. All this is inside the cloud.
Each snowflake will never take the exact same path due to weak air currents and turbulence. Different temperature and humidity levels create different growth rates and patterns. There are 35 types of snowflakes. These can be divided into 121 subtypes. Needles and columns form when temperatures are near 21 degrees Fahrenheit with moderate humidity. Needles occur with slightly higher humidity. Some of these can occur when it's colder than -4 degrees Fahrenheit. However, this is rare. The fanciest, most complex dendrites need temperatures around 5 degrees with very high humidity. These conditions allow the main branches and side branches to grow the best. Rim flakes and grapple occurs when flakes fall through supercooled liquid droplets and will freeze on the flake's surface. When the flake is completely coated, it is grapple, often mistaken for small hail or sleet. The formation process requires a unique moisture and thermal profile. But which of these snowflake types leads to more accumulation? We talked with the National Weather Service out of Binghamton, New York, to find out more.
I mean, a lot of it depends on the saturation concentration. There's actually something called a dendritic growth zone in the atmosphere. So basically, it's a pretty narrow range of temperatures that's actually ideal for dendrites or snowflakes to grow in the atmosphere. So you kind of need to have perfect conditions to really get it to accumulate really fast.
The layer which dendritic snow production takes place is between -10 to -20. DGZ must have sufficient saturation, meaning relative humidity levels should be higher than 70%.
Certain parts of a cloud, based on its temperature and pressure and moisture, you can actually exceed 100%. It's called supersaturation. Now, you don't do it by much, by maybe 100.1, 100.2, up to about 100.5. So depending on whether you're the 0.1 or 0.2, that extra moisture will change the kind of shape of your dendrite to where it could be very spiky or it could be very clumpy.
Strong ascent or upward motion is another factor that supports the rapid growth of snowflakes. This can lead to heavy snow production. However, it is important to mention when talking about snow that there are other factors that affect snow below the DGZ. A few factors include terrain lift, convective stability, precipitation phase, and surface temperatures.
So the next time it snows, now you know how complex the process is. But the WENY First Warning Weather Team is here to make the forecast easy to understand. We're here to keep you informed and prepared for this winter season.
Wow, lots going on as those snowflakes develop in the atmosphere. Thanks so much, Catherine. All right, now let's talk about a change coming to some of the winter weather alerts issued by the National Weather Service this winter. The National Weather Service is in the process of consolidating certain watches, warnings, and advisories.
So the wind chill headlines our wind chill products will be being dropped, and they're being consolidated into the new products, which is a cold weather advisory and then an extreme cold watch or warning.
So a cold weather advisory will be issued when wind chill values drop between 15 and 24 degrees below zero. And an extreme cold warning will be issued when wind chill values drop below 25 below zero. Even though the names of these alerts are changing, it's important to realize the impacts remain the same.
And of course, to know how those warnings will be changing so folks can be better prepared when we do have that cold weather. And another thing to be very prepared for as we get closer to the start of this year's winter, it's always a good idea to understand all the types of precipitation that we can expect, even the seldom seen ones, like thunder snow. Though it's rare in a visual spectacle, and as much as it is a meteorological spectacle too, it's often accompanied by intense snowfall that reflects the nature of its thunderstorm characteristics. Typically, thunderstorms and snow events are left to their own seasons, the former in summer and the latter in winter. However, the Northeast United States is one of several places in the world where thundersnow can form and light up a winter landscape.
I remember perhaps around 3 or 4 years ago, we did have an occurrence of thundersnow here in the southern tier. So you've got to have a lot of ingredients come together. Of course, you usually have a pretty powerful storm system moving through, bringing in a lot of moist air. And with that warmer, moister air is an element of energy that's coming in. And that energy, once it gets into the colder air, it can lead to a temperature difference several thousand feet up and produce that produce that lightning.
Unique visuals are common in a thundersnow event that differ significantly from a regular summer thunderstorm. Lightning appears more vibrant due to the reflection on the white falling snow, and the sound of thunder will only travel up to 3 miles away from a lightning strike, as the snow also muffles sound waves produced by the strike.
I've only seen it a couple of times in my lifetime. I know for other meteorologists and people as well, it's kind of an unusual thing. You really don't expect both a thunderstorm and snowfall to occur. But during around 2010, storm track was right along the East Coast. So these powerful low pressure systems, what are referred to as nor'easters, tracked up the East Coast, bringing in a lot of that warm ocean air into a very cold air mass in place. So that's what led to the very heavy, intense snowfall and of course the thunder snow.
Thundersnow's associations with strong winter storms and powerful low-pressure systems make it a formidable hazard during the winter season. Heavy and wet snowfall can drastically lower visibility and suspend snowplow operations if conditions threaten the safety of drivers. The Twin Tiers' proximity to the Great Lakes creates a slightly higher frequency of thundersnow, adding to the list of potential winter hazards.
Temperatures over land are much colder. Of course, that precipitation falls as snow. A lot of the time, you get that very heavy, intense snowfall, and that's where you can get a few embedded thunderstorms within the narrow lake effect snow bands.
As winter approaches, always have a plan of action when cold and hazardous weather strikes the region, and that plan should include thundersnow. Now, the best way to try and predict thundersnow is to look for those normal thunderstorm indicators like instability and warm, moist air coming from the south. That's how we can best get an idea of when we can see thundersnow coming into the region.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, coming up, it may be the perfect time to head over to Simmons Rockwell to pick out that sharp-looking all-wheel drive vehicle because we're about to go on a road trip. Chief Meteorologist Joe Veras takes us up to Lake Placid and shows us what the Olympic region has to offer. You're watching Winter-Wise, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell.
Welcome back to Winter-Wise. Brought to you by Simmons Rockwell. More cars at lower prices.
Well, welcome back. As we transition out of fall and into winter, we decided to take a trip up to Lake Placid and learn more about what this unique destination has to offer as snow will begin to transform this historic village into a winter wonderland full of activities for the entire family. It took us roughly 5 hours to drive from Elmira to Lake Placid, located north of Albany up in the Adirondack Mountains. The scenery was dramatic, and as we drove into town, you could immediately sense the Olympic presence. We began our tour at the Olympic Center, which is conveniently located in downtown Lake Placid. The center has gone through extensive upgrades in recent years. Within the center, there are a number of sites to explore, including the Olympic Museum, which includes interactive displays and is a great starting point to learn all about Olympic history, especially the 1932 and 1980 Winter Games, which were held right in the Lake Placid region.
This is the new museum that underwent complete renovation and redesign and reopened to the public in December of 2022. We have 7 different exhibits throughout 4 galleries, and we have about 30,000 objects in our archive. And we rotate exhibits and displays, so there's always something new to come and check out. We have a great torch collection, medals, and personal stories from local Olympians.
While at the museum, we learned about the history of winter recreation in the Lake Placid area, which dates back to the late 1800s, when the Lake Placid Club was founded and offered a variety of winter recreation activities. By 1924, France hosted the first Winter Olympic Games, and a Lake Placid native, Charles Jutraw, was the first to win a gold medal. Less than 10 years later, Lake Placid was awarded the 1932 Winter Olympic Games. The Games were opened by Franklin D. Roosevelt, governor of New York at the time. After exploring all the museum had to offer, it was time to check out the ice hockey arenas, open to the public just steps away from the museum. The Herb Brooks Arena is where the famous Miracle on Ice game occurred, where the United States beat the Soviets in 1980.
You believe in miracles? Yes!
The United States would go on to beat Finland that year and win the gold medal. The speed skating oval, just across the street from the Olympic Center, is where famed Olympian Eric Heiden won an unprecedented 5 gold medals, broke 4 Olympic records, and 1 world record at the 1980 Games. The other Olympic venues are just a short drive out of town and include the Mount Van Hoevenberg slide tracks, the Olympic ski jumping complex, and Whiteface Mountain.
Well, the 1932 Olympics is what's really launched this area up here, and then the 1980 Games, 40-something years later, and then 40 years later after that, in 2023, we hosted the World University Games, and that gave us the chance to get $700 million from the state to upgrade all of the Olympic facilities, and I travel the planet to all these Olympic facilities. This is one of the best post-Olympic cities that exist in the whole Olympic chain.
It's the recent upgrades and renovations that really have made these Olympic venues so accessible to the public.
The recreational activities here are really amazing. We also have the ski jumps here in Lake Placid. You can go to the top of the ski jumps. You're not allowed to go off the ski jumps, but you can actually stand up there and watch right where the skiers take off from. Phenomenal views at the top of the 120-meter ski jump tower. Again, these are all certified Olympic level competition venues. Nowhere else in the world is the public availed so much access and participation in venues such as these.
The Lake Placid experience is truly unique. Where else can you zip line beside a towering ski jump or take an exhilarating trip down the bobsled run? Lace up your skates on the same speed skating oval where Eric Heiden won 5 gold medals, or step inside one of the famed hockey arenas where you can try your puck or curling skills. There's miles of top-notch cross-country trails to explore, or you could head up to Whiteface Mountain, which features the largest vertical drop east of the Rocky Mountains.
Here in Lake Placid, one of the unique opportunities that we do give people that come here is we have a tremendous number of activities and attractions for people to, keep occupied and have fun. But what people don't realize is when they are going up the gondola at the ski jumps or they're out at Mount Van Hoevenberg, there's actually elite athletes alongside them.
The Olympic Regional Development Authority, or ORDA for short, is managed by the state of New York, which is committed to keeping these Olympic venues in elite condition. This allows the region to host worldwide competition. The last Olympic Games in Lake Placid was in 1980. But what about the future? While logistically the size of Lake Placid may be too small to accommodate all that an Olympic host location requires, there may be some plans in the works to potentially co-host a future Winter Olympics.
There's a discussion of New York State, Lake Placid hosting the Olympics, have the opening ceremonies on Times Square, all the hockey and figure skating events, into the big arenas down in New York, and then all the field events up here. So the Olympic hope is still there.
In addition to all of the Olympic venues in the region, there's much more to experience in Lake Placid.
One of the great things about coming in the winter, and certainly if you come before the holidays, there's certainly our holiday decorations are bar none the most beautiful. I mean, you come into just a magical, magical winter wonderland with beautiful lights, and it's just so welcoming and beautiful. We have great authentic stores where you can get some amazing holiday gifts.
It's a tight-knit community, but we welcome visitors from all over the world, and it's kind of unique in that way, where you do get that hometown feel, so to say. Anything that you're looking for to do right here in this region, and we're very proud of it, and we want people to come and enjoy that experience as well.
Well, I have to say, we really enjoyed our trip up to the Lake Placid area and was pleasantly surprised at all the activities that are offered, not only in the winter months, but also year-round. For the outdoor adventurer or casual traveler, Lake Placid is truly a beautiful destination with a wide variety of options for all, and I highly recommend a trip up to the region.
Well, I have to say, Joe, I think you sold me. I think I'll be taking a trip in the next year. When we come back, a lot of us get the winter blues, but for some people, it can be a lot more serious. We'll look at some options for dealing with seasonal depression in the winter months. It is estimated that millions of Americans experience seasonal affective disorder. Many may not know they have this common disorder, and in most cases, it begins as a young adult.
Seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, is commonly known as seasonal or winter depression that occurs during certain times of the year. It is characterized by a pattern of symptoms that typically begin in the fall and last through the winter, typically improving by the spring. The winter pattern SAD should not be confused with holiday blues, which is feelings of sadness or anxiety brought on by stresses at certain times of the year. Seasonal affective disorder is related to changes in daylight hours, not the calendar. Dr. Danielle Terry, Director of Behavioral Science at Guthrie Family Medicine Residency, explains the symptoms of seasonal depression.
Any depressive episode is going to have a bunch of features, and it can look different based on the individual. So they might experience a number of different symptoms. Usually it's going to be depressed mood that they're going to experience most of the day, every day. Reduced interest in their activities. They might notice changes in their appetite or in their weight. They might notice changes in their sleep. They might feel more agitated in their body or have more slowing of their body. So you can go one way or the other. They also might notice that they feel more tired throughout the day, feelings of worthlessness, a lot of guilt, problems with concentration, or thoughts of suicide.
Dr. Terry mentions that it is more of a disorder or significant concern when it lasts more than 2 weeks. One way to combat this depression is to reach out to your primary care provider.
Behavioral activation really just means doing things that bring you pleasure and doing things that are healthy for you and your body. So we also know that physical activity is something that can be helpful. For a seasonal pattern in particular,
she also mentions medication and light therapy can help too. Dr. Terry says you can purchase the bulbs online from a light box to tablets that mimic the direction of the sun.
It is best to talk to your healthcare provider about the different treatment options and which will be best for you.
All right, thank you very much for that story. Well, when we come back, we'll give you our winter weather outlook from the WENY First Warning Weather Team. This is Winter Wise, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell. Well, welcome back. Now the time has come to talk about what we think will happen this upcoming winter. And obviously last winter was a mild one across the Twin Tiers, and we're not expecting too much to change this year. We are going to be heading into a La Nina pattern. El Nino or La Nina doesn't have significant impacts on our local area here in the Twin Tiers, more so over the West Coast and southern portions of the United States. What has more of an impact on our weather is what we call the North Atlantic Oscillation, and more of a blocking pattern up towards Greenland. But nonetheless, this is what the National Weather Service is forecasting as we head through the months of December, January, and February in terms of temperature. And it looks like there's a strong signal for temperatures to average well above average across the southern tier of the United States, due in part to the La Nina pattern that's developing.
And I do want to add that not every day will be an above average temperature. It's talking about the average over the course of that 3 months. It could be 1 degree warmer, or it could even be upwards of 5 degrees warmer.
Yeah, so that's a good point. On average for the winter months, National Weather Service forecasting above average temperatures, including our region, while areas of the northern plains, Pacific Northwest expected to be below average for this winter.
Yeah, we could absolutely see temperatures start to stay a little bit on the higher side, but when we factor in precipitation, that could lead into more rain events. As we see in the Great Lakes, there's a higher chance of some extra precipitation, as is in the Pacific Northwest. Take it further south and you see much lower chances of precipitation. And so when we factor it all in, we could see plenty more precipitation events, but of course the all-important factor being temperature, as in, will it be too warm? Will we get a rain event? Or will it be cold and we could get a snow event?
Yeah, so that's what the National Weather Service is thinking in terms of temperature and precipitation for the upcoming winter. Well, what about us? And as far as our predictions go, I'll start with myself. We are looking, at least what I'm thinking is near average temperatures here across our portion of the country. So like Catherine was mentioning earlier, we could be looking at a couple cold spells mixed in, but that'll also kind of balance out with the above average temperatures for much of the winter.
And I'm going the same as Joe with a near average temperature average. Like I mentioned, we could see a couple of days where we do get about a degree or even 5 degrees above average, but we could see some colder days.
And I'm in agreement with my colleagues here. I feel that we're going to have occasional cold snaps from the north, but also the jet stream could dip a little further to allow some warm air into the region.
All right, so all of us going with near average temperatures for the winter months. Now, as far as snowfall goes, again, I'm thinking it's near average. That means about 40 or so inches in the Elmira area, but higher amounts in some of the higher terrain.
And I'm going the same, near average. I think we're not going to see typically an above average due to this La Nina effect.
I also am going to agree with my colleagues here. I feel that we get a decent amount of snow, middle of the road for us, but those higher elevations likely to get quite a bit.
All right, so we all are thinking near average temperature and near average snowfall. We hope you enjoyed our winter weather presentation, Winter-Wise, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell. It's important to stay weather aware throughout the season, and to do just that, you can count on the WENY First Warning Weather Team. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching Winter-Wise, brought to you by Simmons Rockwell. More cars at lower prices. This has been a WENY News special presentation.